Hi everyone, so I wanted to talk about a pretty controversial topic today, but I wanted to share my thoughts, but more than that, I wanted to share the facts because I believe that facts are more important sometimes than feelings are. So the other day I was sent an article by somebody and it talked about a transgender woman who defeated these other genetically born women in a 400-meter track event, and she beat them by more than a second. And I was thinking about this, and before I even share my opinion about this, I just want to say that I have nothing against any transgender people. I always support people's decisions. If you feel like you were born a male but you feel female, that's fine if you want to transition or whatever. But what's fair is fair, and what's fair depends a lot more on facts than it does on feelings. So I actually did a lot of research yesterday, and it turns out that there's actually not a lot of research on the topic, but I did find some things. So a lot of people feel that it's unfair for a transgender woman to compete against other women in a competitive sport because they believe that the male testosterone levels that they had before still affect them in the competitive sporting event. And then other people feel that transgender women should be able to compete with females in sports because they not only identify as a female, but they're now taking female hormones in order to make themselves genetically female. Okay, so this is a big problem, and there's a lot of privacy issues, a lot of issues with being targeted, transgender people being targeted, and all this kind of stuff. And so I decided to do my research, and it's actually pretty interesting. So I want you to hear about it first before anyone else hears about it. Hi, Claire. So I just wanted you to hear about it first. So previously, the IOC, or the International Olympic Committee, used to make women pretty much pull down their pants so you could prove that you're a woman, and that was in the 1960s, and you could see how that could be a big issue, and I'm glad they don't do that anymore. Plus, just because you have certain genitalia, some people who are hermaphrodites and stuff have it's not quite the same as a female, right? And I took a lot of notes. So after they took away that testing where you pretty much had to pull down your pants to prove that you were a female, they started doing chromosomal testing. And this testing was a little bit better because they were able to see if you were male or female, but it didn't quite work the way that they thought it was because there were always little variations, right? So then finally they changed the rules, but the rules still need to be changed. They changed the rules where they didn't do the chromosomal testing as much, but in 2004 the International Olympic Committee allowed transgender women to compete in female sports. And so as long as they had 2 years of hormone therapy. Now, I don't know how they proved that they had 2 years of hormone therapy. I don't know how they proved that they were taking all the medications and anything like that. I don't know how the level goes. And like in high school, I know that they don't even test you for steroids, stuff like that. And if you perform well in high school, that gives you money to go to college. So there's like a lot of different questions I have here because I was a college athlete myself, an elite college athlete, and being a female athlete and being able to receive a scholarship, would I care if it was taken away by a transgender woman? I don't know. But I do know this, that female athletes are very super competitive. Like, this is one of the first arguments I ever got into with my husband is about female athletes. And female athletes still deep in their heart, whether they want to admit it or not, they want to compete against males because they want to prove that they're the best, right? So no, most female athletes, for the most part, depending on the sport or the athlete themselves, aren't going to argue against competing against a transgender woman or competing even against a male, because we have this sort of pride in us that's going to make us want to just compete, right? So one of the first arguments with my husband was about female athlete abilities, and the truth is that we do have the ability to build muscles in our legs and stuff like that, but there are other advantages that testosterone gives you that as a female athlete you don't get because you don't have as much testosterone. And I never admit it to my husband. He can see this video later, but the advantage that female athletes do have is on the endurance arena, and there are many female athletes who outbeat men in endurance. And there's a swimmer out there that does it. There's two swimmers actually. There's one that was in the Olympics, I forget her name, last year, and then there was this one older woman who swam to Cuba, and nobody's ever done it before but a female. But besides the point, we do have the advantage in super endurance wise. But the advantage that testosterone does give you as a male athlete, and this is going to help confirm some of the views that people have about transgender, is testosterone gives you the ability to bring more oxygen to your blood, and that's very super important for athletic events. The other thing testosterone gives you is the ability to have greater bone density. And the third thing that testosterone gives you is it gives you the ability to carry less fat, so you have a leaner body mass, which is usually more beneficial in most athletic situations. So let's go back to the transgender community. So like I said, I have nothing against the transgender community, and I did a lot of research on this. This research was actually done by a transgender woman who was born a male, and she's the only one really out there doing the research right now, but there's just not enough research yet. So this woman is a runner, and she wanted to figure out if changing your hormones affected your running times. So she was only I guess the transgender community is really secretive, she said, and it was really hard to find volunteers, but she's a runner, so in the run she tested herself, her running ability for her best running time, and then she tested after hormone treatment, and she also took the age into factor, because obviously when you age a lot of times you get slower, but she figured it out, but because there's a common scale, the older you get, and it kind of just, I don't know exactly how to describe it, but so she found that she only had 8 runners, so this isn't a very legit study, but she found that after hormone therapy, that of the 8 runners, 7 of them had slower times. She herself had 5 minutes slower times. I don't know how that adds up with age. Maybe it ends up being 3 or 4 minutes slower. I don't know. But she found that she was 5 minutes slower than her fastest time. Okay? And so the hormones that she does take to be a female did affect her, right? But does it affect her enough to be considered a female? And that's the big question. Does it? So the thing that hormones don't change, though, it doesn't change your body frame. It doesn't change if you were naturally a tall male when you were born. You don't become a shorter female by taking hormones. You don't get smaller hands. Like, your body frame size doesn't change. So that's one thing that hormones won't change. And I think the real issue is what kind of restrictions are these athletes having, and how far down the line does it go? Because just because the International Olympic Committee has certain restrictions, do colleges have these restrictions on transgender athletes, or do high schools? And I don't know what the rules are, and I probably think it's different for every high school. But so right now, the International Olympic Committee requires your testosterone to be less than 10 nanomoles per liter. And that's a low end for males, which is the key factor. That's the low and for males. But the problem is that 99% of women have less than 3 nanomoles per liter, and they're only requiring less than 10. So most of these transgender women have still 3 times as much testosterone as these genetically born women. And that's a problem because testosterone is what gives oxygen to the blood, and it also is able to help build muscle and increase your bone density, which is all important. So even if their times are slowing because they have these hormones in them, it's not slowing enough to consider them what 99% of women are. And that's what I think the issue is. The problem is, if I was to compete, I would be like, sure, I'll just run against them. But they have 3 times the advantage of any other woman because most of these transgender women aren't having their hormones low enough to be considered like what most normal women. It's the low end for a male, and that's the key factor, low end for the male. So maybe the International Olympic Committee has to lower their standards to fit what 99% of women actually are, and then maybe it's okay. I don't know, because there are still differences in a transgender woman than a genetically born woman, right? There's the oxygen, there's all these other things. So I don't know if you remember, I actually remember this in the 2008 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, I don't know how to say it. There was this South African transgender woman who won the gold in the 800 meters, but she won by like significantly. And because of this, she was controversially tested to see if she was a female or not. And there was big controversy over the testing because people felt like she shouldn't have to be tested or whatever. But it was found that she was a transgender athlete, right? And she ended up having 3 times the testosterone in her blood than the average female. So that was a big thing. She won gold. She stole, a lot of people would say that she stole gold from what a female should have been able to have because she had that advantage. So is that fair? I don't know. I'm asking you because I don't know. But that's what the facts say, and that's my research that I have so far on it. And I believe that if you are going to compete as a female, then you should have the same levels as a female. And I don't even know, I think at the minimum, the Olympic Committee should lower the amount of testosterone that should be in the blood. In order to compete at that international level, they should lower the standards. But is it still okay? I don't know. But that's a good start because there has to be some accountability. And I have nothing against transgender athletes, but if you are choosing to compete against women, then you should at least be like other women. And I don't know what the regulations are. They say now that even this scientist who is a transgender woman agreed that they should lower the amount of the standard for the amount of testosterone in the blood. She agreed, and for her to say that is something because she's in the transgender community, not me. She is, and she's doing all this research and she agrees on that. So I think the minimum requirement is for any sport, they should at least lower the amount of testosterone because then you're competing at an unfair advantage. If illegal drugs are banned from Olympic sports and professional sports, then why shouldn't it be banned here? And also, there needs to be more regulation. The reason is because at the high school level, if there's no regulation in the Olympic level, everybody knows that once there's regulation in the higher level, the regulation will start going down the line. So maybe then colleges can have more regulation than high schools because it's not fair if a female is looking for a scholarship and everybody's too afraid to say something to the transgender community because they don't want people to get offended. But if you're too afraid to say something and they're missing out on certain scholarships, things like that, because there's no regulation. Obviously, it is there's invasion of privacy, or I don't know if there's HIPAA rules included in that. I don't know. But there needs to be some sort of change, and there needs to be a change now before it goes too far where females are taking themselves out of competing in female sports because they're either too proud and they think that they can compete against that, or they don't want to speak up and say anything. So there's my research. I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash from this, but I will post the link below this video. I'll post it in the comment to show you where I got some of my research from, and I'll keep doing more research. But I don't think, me personally, I don't think that transgender women should be competing against naturally born, genetically born women until minimally their testosterone is as low as 99% of women in the world. Then I think maybe that's a good start. Okay? So thanks for watching. I want to hear your thoughts and hope to see you guys in the next video. Please let me know your thoughts. I'm really curious to hear. I know people fall on both sides, and I'm really trying to just present the facts here. I don't, of course I told my opinion, but I'm trying to present the facts, which is why I gave you facts from a transgender woman. And I just want you to give me what your thoughts are. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.